What's up, everybody? Justin Fensterman back with you with another Fantasy Alarm Weekly Stock Watch report for the 2020 fantasy football season, as I'll go over some players who are on the rise and dropping when it comes to interest level and production in fantasy football. But before I get to the players of the week, let's talk about all you 0-3 players out there. There's still time to come back and win. Your Fantasy Alarm family is always with you. That's not just a saying. It is very true. There's still time to turn your season around. The worst thing you can do, even if you're 0-3, even if you're not scoring many points each week, the worst thing you could do is quit. And we will never quit. And when you're riding with the family, we will always be with you. Now let's get to some players who are on the rise and are falling in fantasy football. First player on the rise, Allen Robinson of the Bears. Are you happy? You satisfied? Are you feeling better now that he's put up the points that you were expecting from him every single week? You should have been fine with Robinson the entire time, because despite the lack of production, he still had 18, that's right, 18 targets leading into week 3. Hopefully Nick Foles gets to continue to start for Chicago, but even when Mitchell Trubisky was under center last year, Robinson was still one of the most targeted receivers in football. It shocked me that people wanted to not only trade him for pennies on the dollar, but some wanted to drop him. Seriously, don't do that. Focus on targets, not just touchdowns. Let's talk about Robinson's teammate David Montgomery. With Tariq Cohen out of the way after he destroyed his knee, it should lead to more action for Montgomery. He was being targeted 3 times a game in the passing game, and even though we haven't seen him run in a score, he does have 1 touchdown in the air, and he should be able to see more passes moving forward. After a single-digit effort, owners might be turned off by him and want to test the trade market. Don't trade the farm for him, as league mates you're negotiating with will throw in your face that there's no Tariq Cohen, and so he's bound to go up when it comes to production. But if he puts up a strong outing in week 4, you won't be able to get a deal. Montgomery did tweak his neck in the first half of Sunday's game, but he played in the second half and should be active going into week 4. Final player on the rise, Jared Goff. If you've already hit the point where you're streaming quarterbacks, Goff has been a top 10 fantasy quarterback this season, and after putting up over 30 fantasy points against the Bills, we have to give him QB1 consideration for at least the next few weeks. Goff produced 3 touchdowns against Buffalo, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. He's thrown 5 touchdown passes in 3 games. His next 2 matchups are against the Giants and the Washington football team, and he should be able to have an easy time with both opposing defenses. He's thrown for at least 267 passing yards in each of his 3 games. Now let's get to some players who are trending downward. Let's talk about Joe Mixon from the Bengals. I get it, you're not happy. Mixon got paid, and all who took a shot on him while his contract situation was up in the air are waiting for their return on investment. Mixon hasn't been running the ball well. He's had 2 games in which he rushed for fewer than 3 yards per carry. He's been getting a little love in the passing game, but we can't fully rely on it for consistency yet. It's the same play for Mixon every time. Rush up the middle 2 yards, up the middle 2 yards, up the middle 2 yards. It's the same thing. We need to see more from the Bengals coaching staff in which they can put Mixon in better situation. Mixon needs to run better as well. Do not drop him though. And be careful when valuing him in trades. On the other side, this could be a good buy low opportunity if you need a running back. Mixon's next game is against the Jaguars, and if Myles Gaskin can run on the Jags, Mixon should be able to as well. He should be able to. Huge opportunity for Mixon to produce before he faces Baltimore the following week. Next, we go to Daniel Jones. And if you listen to our Fantasy Alarm staff, we all told you that it was going to be a very tough start for Jones because of his schedule. But he has just been pathetic. He's thrown 4 picks and lost 2 fumbles in 3 games, and now goes up against the Rams in week 4. He lost Saquon Barkley for the season, and Sterling Shepard is currently sidelined with a toe injury. Jones' schedule gets easier throughout the season, and if you have a deep bench, you can keep him stashed for depth purposes. But the decision-making from him has been pretty poor. He's thrown only 2 touchdowns, and they were in week 1. The Giants just got eaten alive by a half-injured 49ers team. It's very hard to feel good about starting Jones at this point, but hopefully he starts to grow, improve his decision-making, and he gets Sterling Shepard back soon. Finally, Chris Herndon and every other New York Jet not named Jamison Crowder. I don't need to say much about this, but the Jets just look awful. And still, I've been getting a lot of questions about whether or not to start Chris Herndon. And I get it. Somebody has to be out there with a pulse to be able to grab the targets. The Jets aren't fully healthy, and even their active options are just not putting up good fantasy numbers outside of Crowder, who we haven't seen in a couple of weeks because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. We don't know if Crowder will be active for week 4. The Jets are also missing Le'Veon Bell and Rashad Perriman due to injuries, and in regards to Chris Herndon, I'm currently in wait-and-see mode. Once I see him put up double-digit fantasy points, I'll consider streaming him. The Jets look lifeless, and Sam Darnold has thrown more picks than touchdowns this season. Pathetic. That's your weekly Stock Watch, Fantasy Alarm Nation, and all fantasy football players. There is still time to turn your seasons around. You ride with the family, and we'll help you get there. Playoffs, rings, that's what we're all about. Good luck, and let's continue to dominate.